We're live. Welcome everybody here to the Lakers Lounge podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, joined this fine Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening, I guess,
hmm
your time. I don't know where it's the afternoon. Hawaii? Is it the?
Are they behind us or in front of us? I'm not sure.
They're behind the west
Okay.
of you,
Oh yes. Okay.
or super far east. But
Mm.
but yeah, no, we are live. That is Raj Chapalu. He is of All Access Lakers, of Twitter, of basically any number of projects. He's all over the place. And he is one of my absolute favorite human beings on this here planet for a variety of reasons. But I would say pretty high on the list of why you're one of my favorite people is somehow, some way, over the last couple of years, you were able to remain like even kind of optimistic, right? While Russell Westbrook was a Laker, you just kept thinking to yourself, there's a good team in here somewhere. Maybe, just maybe. Um, Wound up not being the case, until he
I
was moved,
mean,
and then there was a good team.
sure.
And yeah, now here we are. There is a good team. They're like, I am walking around optimistic, and I'm just kind of curious, Raj. Are you just like hugging strangers? Like, do you wake up every morning with happy tears in your eyes? Like, where
Uh,
are you at right now?
it feels like everyone joined my side. You know what I mean? Like I was the one in the sun while you guys were all walking in darkness, and now you guys have all joined me.
Hold on.
you guys have all you guys have all joined my side. Like the sun was always out, Anthony. That's the thing. Like the sun was always out there. You guys were just walking in the dark, like you were in the shade, and you come over to my side of there's a good team here. There's like maybe even a great team here, I might say. But yes, I've seen more people jump onto my side where I've been at. Where's your response to that? Because I can see you have some questions at that.
Uh, a lot. I have several. So there's a good team in here somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Does that just mean like there's a good team with like it within the organization somewhere? So like back when the Lakers were winning 17 games, were you sitting there saying like there's a good team here somewhere?
So I usually do lead more on the bright side, but to me, like during those 17 win seasons, there was always something to like at least glare in. Like that time, it was not really wins losses. It was like, okay, what's the development of Brandon Ingram or Kyle Kuzma or those guys? That's kind of where the good team is in here in 3 years, kind of thing. During that time, like you're kind of looking at that. Like you look at like. For example, you look at like Jalen Hood-Schifino, right, who's getting a ton of touches, and there's a good
Mm-hmm.
player in there somewhere, but it's probably in like 2 years, right? Like, so that's how I kind of look at it. And for
Okay.
last year, it was mostly just there's LeBron and AD here, so that means like there has to be something good in here. And I was right, there was. You gave them, and I think you were really onto this. You give them some like good players, actual NBA talent, and the Lakers took off. So
All right. That is very general. So that gives you a hell of a runway that you can
yes,
take like years down the line with a completely different cast. There might be a good team in
those
here
are
somewhere.
dark times for a lot of people. I understand.
And look, everybody watching right now, and those of you listening, you could probably hear the smile on my face. I love talking to Raj because he somehow is that kind of optimistic always. Like a bird can poop on his shoe and he can be like, you know what? I like this colorway. It looks better now. There's a good shoe down there somewhere.
Oh man.
It's honestly incredible. That's why when I was running the silver screen feed there for a while, my favorite pairing was you and Sabrina because Sabrina would be like, "That's actual shit on your shoe, Raj. It doesn't improve the colorway." And you guys would have great back and forths about it.
Yes,
And here we are,
most
though.
definitely.
Look, you hung on tight and you believed in the organization. And you do get to kind of strut in the sun. You do get to, walk around with your head held high, your chest puffed out, fresh off of the 50 push-ups that you do every morning. And yeah, this is a good team. And you've tweeted it out. Sabrina and I talked about it yesterday. I've seen various other people who have covered this team for a long time. I've spoken to people who like cover or follow other teams, and they kind of marvel at like, why is it Lakers fans are freaking out about modern spacing? And it's like, we've never had it before. Like, it's a
Nope.
brand new thing. It reminds me, frankly, of one of the best movie clips of all time.
It looks amazing.
Look at that. That looks like what you would buy from a store.
Should have been.
Look at all this floor space.
So
You
much.
do aerobics in here.
So many activities.
Do step class.
It's making my head spin. How many activities we can do?
Play Army Man.
Yeah.
This is how we do it.
Da, 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 da.
Hey, I never asked you.
Yeah.
You like guacamole?
So that is Step Brothers. There is so much room for activities, Raj. Alex Regla has tweeted out a couple clips of it. There have been a variety of screen grabs. Basically, you can't look at Twitter right now without Lakers fans marveling at spacing. And I think that's honestly the first place that I want to talk about here. And it's the foundation for my optimism. For a long time, I likened the Lakers trying to kind of catch up to modern spacing and modern concepts, much like a middle-aged man wearing a jacket that is way too young for them, right? For him.
Okay.
You know, it never fit properly. You knew that he wasn't necessarily all that comfortable in it. And eventually he just goes back to the jacket that he's used to, right? Eventually he's like, you know what? You know, Jen, I love you. I appreciate you. I'm not going to wear this jacket anymore. And now though, that person has finally come around to that jacket, has some modern fashion, not wearing khakis with New Balances anymore. It's just it's a team that, you know, got this facelift, a roster that makes a bunch of sense. And here we are. We get to marvel at modern spacing and everything that it does for LeBron and AD, who, by the way, are like looking around right now, waiting to be double, triple, quadruple team, and it isn't coming because teams can't.
Right, for sure. The best thing though, and I remember last year, not to go back to that, you know, dark time for a lot of people, but I was pushing like the Cole Swider needs to play because of this exact reason, Anthony, and Sabrina shot me down very quickly. But like I was very much in the Cole Swider needs to play, who, by the way, Bam Adebayo said was standing out in camp. So I just would like to, you know, point that out. That
meaning like he was standing away from everybody because all he can do is provide spacing. Like that's all he can do. Like they're waiting for him to join the rest of the team. And he just stands in the corner. Cole, you're not on you're not on offense right now. You have to guard somebody. Nope, I stand in corners. It's what I do.
Oh, don't do that. He had an awful summer league, but you know, 6'9" gunslingers. I think there's room for them. Now the difference to me though, Anthony, is like I was watching and guys can't go under our ball screens anymore. Like I don't know what planet we're on where that's happening. It's been like Lonzo Ball, Rajon Rondo, Patrick Beverley. Like every guard that we had running pick and rolls, the defending guard can just go under. And the thing
Even
that
LeBron.
changes to me. Even LeBron, yes. But the thing that changes the geometry to me, Anthony, is we have a bunch of pull-up jump shooters. And that's like, I know the spacing gets put into like catch and shoot. So like Torian Prince hit a bunch of catch and shoot threes. But to me, though, the pull-up jump shooting just changes everything you can do on this team. And that's with Austin, D'Lo, and Gabe. And then LeBron's going to take pull-up jump shots as well. But that, like, to me, just opens up AD. And like we just had a story today where AD is going to take 6 threes a game. At least that's what Darin Ham wants.
Mm-hmm.
I'm skeptical of that. I'm not optimistic, Anthony.
So is Darvin. He's lying.
Yes.
Darvin's an incredible
Sure.
liar.
Sure. But like you have D'Lo, Austin, and Gabe taking pull-up threes, and that just looks natural to them. And from there, you can't just not guard them. Like we're playing a 5-out system now where like Jackson Hayes, AD are pretty much your top of the key kind of playmakers. And that's stuff we just never had. Marc Gasol was supposed to be that guy, but like he took like 1 3 a game. Also, Frank Vogel's offensive system wasn't very creative. I'm so excited, Anthony. We have a modern team, a team that's like entered into the modern atmosphere of teams. Like we have a team where you can't just, we've lost the math game so many times where like LeBron would have 30, AD would have 35. And we're like, why are we in a 2-point game with Charlotte? And like, it's because they took like 10, 15 more threes than we did. It's nice to kind of even that playing field out.
Yeah, it was always, you would always look at the scorebook and the Lakers would be giving up like 20 points and just 3-pointers.
Right.
And that's really difficult to overcome. And yeah, it does kind of suck that a sport as beautiful and as artistic as basketball can be has basically been boiled down to shoot as many threes as you possibly can and make as many threes as you possibly can. And the team that does so successfully is probably going to win that game. I would like for it to be fixed somehow. I don't think it can at this point. The story's out, right? Teams know what they need to do. But at least now, going into these games, that isn't something that I'm going to be worried about every game. Now, there are some question marks. Like, don't get me wrong. This isn't a juggernaut team. This isn't some buzzsaw that's going to run through the entirety of the Western Conference or
Right.
the NBA Finals. There are some really good teams out there that do present some tough matchups, i.e., the team that swept the Lakers the last time we saw them play. But it is a team that, every time that the Lakers especially over the LeBron AD era, you're talking about, you put it perfectly. They have these two giant advantages, literally giant. They are two huge human beings, and they would get you back to even with the advantages that the Lakers would be giving up, and now though they can operate as those advantages, and the Lakers will have math on their side more often than not. And that's going to make LeBron and AD better, which is frankly terrifying. Like, if I were the rest of the league, and I know, like I said a second ago, there are really good teams out there, but if I were the rest of the league, I would be pretty damn concerned that a team that was together for all of 15 minutes before the playoffs now has an entire camp to work with, seems to have their identity kind of figured out heading into the season. The guys seem to like each other. I would be really kind of nervous about what this team is. Now, again, I am also nervous, like LeBron gets the wrong tweak and AD falls on the wrong foot or something like that, and it's all over. But as far as like the night by night competitive nature of this team, it is kind of staggering what they could be capable of. And like I said a second ago, this is me saying this. This is me who is like, I'm telling. I even told Jen the other night, you're gonna want to get in more on more of these Laker games because I think they're gonna be legitimately fun to watch. And as I was saying that, it was that play where, was it Russell? I think Russell set the back screen for Rui, and he caught the lob from LeBron on. And it was like, Jen just happened to be looking at the TV. She's like that stuff. I was like, yeah, it's gonna be a lot of that stuff. It's gonna be incredible. And yeah, it's a marvel. And it does present us kind of its own challenge because it gets kind of monotonous to keep saying that this is a good team over and over and over again. But that's the kind of problem I would prefer to have, rather than like hop on here every night and say, Russ is here, we still suck. like, contrary to what Raj is telling you, there is not a good team in here somewhere while that guy is still here.
No, for sure. And look, Russ is on the other LA team now. We'll see how he does there. But to me, though, Anthony, I think this team, where's it going with this? With the jump shooting now that D'Lo and Austin provide, like last night, Brooklyn defended us how every team defended us last season. And I don't think we're going to get up 55 threes like we did last night. I think that's a high number for us. But I just love that we can punish that now. And I kind of disagree with it's only 3-point shooting. Like I've heard that where like the 3-point shooting team wins. And maybe like for the most part for like in the box score, that's true. But I think like just the way this team is built, LeBron and AD's like paint pressure has been so high, even with Russ, right? Russ is a paint attacker, so that's why it kind of failed. But LeBron and AD's paint pressure to me now works hand in hand with our shooting, right? We have guys that now take the pressure off of them to now we're like, you have to make a decision. You have to make a choice. Before it was like, yeah, just send everybody to the paint. Even when Vando's on the floor, right? That kind of changes the geometry as well. We're like, and I think that's a question with the starters. But like where teams will just, all right, we're not guarding Vanderbilt. And the Warriors did that to us in the first game. But like we didn't have Austin, we didn't have LeBron playing. Between now, at least there's a choice where like LeBron can. Last night, LeBron got like a back down fadeaway where he took like 4 dribbles and took a fadeaway, and no one came over to help because it's like they can't. It's like Austin one pass away, D'Lo on the skip, right? Taurean Prince, who finally was able to play because he didn't foul out in 5 minutes. And he was hitting his catch and shoot threes. Like, where are you helping from? And AD obviously maneuvering around the dunker area. So now LeBron's like, yeah, let me just back down 3 steps and get a little fadeaway because no one's coming. And I think that's just a choice that, we just didn't have for like many years, even in the title era, right? You had Avery Bradley out there. Alex Caruso got better as a shooter, but these are guys that teams were very like willingly able to just help off of. And the biggest thing I see, Anthony, is like we're not sluggish anymore. Like even when we
Yeah.
were good, our offense was very sluggish. We would run in mud. And it feels like we've gotten into like a smooth offensive place. And I have concerns defensively. I listened to you and Sabrina talk, and I thought it was a little too positive on Christian Wood, even for my taste. But
Wow.
even for me, I was listening. I was like, oh wow, like this is I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to come on and maybe be a little bit negative. But yeah, like I think like that's where the biggest difference to me is that like this looks like a smooth offensive team where we have guys that like D'Lo looks in command of like
Yeah.
his game. Austin looks in command of his game. Gabe just looks like a pro. And it's just nice to not be spinning the wheel on minimum players, like hoping to hit the lottery. Is that how the lottery works? But like how like hitting the lottery on like minimum
Yeah.
signing.
Well, I like to that point though. Christian Wood, I'm optimistic that he is just a minimum signing, and if he doesn't pan out, it doesn't matter. There are 9 guys ahead of him that are like okay, And I do kind of think Bismack Biyombo was still sitting out there somewhere. I
Yeah.
don't know what he's like. He's the backup center who's going to play 5 to 10 minutes in games that matter. Isn't something I'm particularly worried about, and I just can't get myself that concerned about it because again, like, and this is where Christian is really kind of unique in his presence on this team. Typically, those players that the Lakers have brought on at the minimum, in terms of just raw talent, Trevor Ariza was like 37 years old, right? Malik Monk is like the only guy who had pedigree who was still like in or approaching his prime. And we saw how that worked out. You look at the, even Lonnie Walker, and no, he didn't get the payday that Monk did or whatever. And he wasn't a minimum signing or either. But like those guys who come over and are at or near their prime and have that pedigree and aren't Cam Reddish, like those guys do tend to pan out for the Lakers. I have no belief in Cam at this point. I don't think he's gonna play. It's probably a big mistake from Clutch guiding him to the Lakers. But I do think though with Wood, he seems like the kind of player who has that pedigree, he has that kind of talent, and is in a situation here where career-wise, it's over basically. If he doesn't figure it out here, not necessarily from like, we'll see you in China, you better learn Mandarin or whatever, but like, but he is hoping for a bigger payday, right? Like he said heading in on media day, this is the most motivated he's ever been. It's like, yeah, because he's making the minimum. Of course he's freaking motivated. Yeah, that's how this works. That's how you're hoping this works. But in this case, though, I think a minimum guy who has a skill set that the Lakers can really take advantage of, has that pedigree, has that talent. Like I do think he's somebody who I think can work out. And if he doesn't, oh well, he's a minimum guy and he's pretty deep in the rotation.
For sure. To me, I think to me, there's no world where Christian Wood just doesn't play and sits on the bench. Like I just can't see that. To me, I think he's here to play. The Darin Ham connection, right? That played up in media day. We saw that with Dennis Schroeder last year, and I think Christian Wood's going to play. My concern, Anthony, I want to ask you this because I feel like Darin Ham, and he's being sold as the player's coach, of course, but he told Christian Wood, go be Christian Wood, right? And I think the Lakers need more of a the Lakers need more Jackson Hayes from Christian Wood, but Christian Wood's not going to be that player. And the Lakers just don't need that, right? And how does Christian Wood get paid? He gets paid by putting up numbers, right? And from his perspective, he put up 18 and whatever rebounds last year, and he got the minimum. So he at least has to hit some bar, right? Like in his mind, he's like, I got to at least hit some 15-point a game bar. When I watch him play, and he may be out of shape, he looks a lot slower than I feel like I even remember him being from like last season, but it's very slow. It's very rugged. He takes a lot of unorthodox floaters. There's a lot of plays where like I always look at a player, what they do when the other team's on a run. And I remember in the first game against the Warriors went on a little bit of a run, and you could see the like old habits creep up where like he's starting to inch toward the top of the key to ask for the ball. Stuff like that to me, I think is going to be hard to get out of a guy who's just been ingrained to come get the basketball and try to do crossovers. And you see him like try to draw fouls, and the refs are like, "You're not getting any of these calls, man. You're like, you're no longer on like a nice deal. Like we don't have to respect you as an offensive player in that way." But those are my concerns with him. And then defensively, I think he just is very slow. And even when next to AD, I feel like his rotations are just like 2 to 3 seconds late. And this is early in preseason, but my concerns for him have all kind of been validated from the first 2 games. So I'm concerned about Christian Wood. That's my real only concern so far, Anthony. Everything else has been fun. I just feel like Wood, like he looks so out of place for a team that's running in flow, right? We just talked for the first few minutes how much the Lakers look like they're in a flow. They have a nice offensive system. Everything's in motion. And then Christian Wood comes in and it's like rugged and slow and like he's moving in mud. So those are my concerns with him.
I actually do see a situation where he doesn't play. And like Darin Ham did say like go out and beat Christian Wood, but he also told AD to go shoot 6 threes a game. He coaches lie. Like he's going to say the kind of thing that I think he's going to ingratiate himself to Wood more. And like to your point, you would like Wood to just buy into, hey man, we need you to do some small stuff. We do need you to rim run. We do need you to not anchor the offense when we want to get out and run on a miss. When I watch him and AD play together, AD was thrilled to have decent centers next to him so he wouldn't have to do all the center stuff. And then every time it's Wood's turn to do the center stuff, AD kind of looks at him and it's a lot of like palms to the sky kind of thing. Like, what? Like what are we doing? That was your spot. And it just winds up being like AD deciding like, oh, okay, I guess I got to take care of this here too. So yeah, like he's not a perfect player. He is on a minimum for a reason. And I do like I've been really pleasantly surprised by Jackson Hayes, like really pleasantly surprised by like, he just levitates off of the ground. Like you don't even see him gather himself to dunk. Stu was like, it sounded like almost fell over in his chair on one of the fast breaks that he had, where I think he caught it from Maxwell Lewis. Lewis like passed the ball to him in close quarters, and he like caught it on his way up and he dunked it in transition. I talked about the finish with Sabrina yesterday, where he used his right hand on the left side of the basket and it looked supernatural. He has really surprised me here, and I still think he's going to get ripped to shreds by Jokic and those kinds of bigs because he weighs about as much as I do. But I think, as Pelinka has really recognized the value in getting back to the culture of competition, he saw how things went when Andre Drummond came in and knew that he was going to get a starting gig. He saw what it did to like the team's kind of psyche when Alex Caruso started in a month or 2 prior, started in a finals clinching game, and then Dennis Schroeder gets acquired, and his press conference, he's like, nope, I'm starting. Even though I'm coming from a team that was in the lottery, I am starting now. I think here, especially with a player like Christian Wood, if Hayes wins that spot out, he just wins that spot out. And if that's just how it goes, that's how it goes. And even there, you're talking about the backup center to Anthony Davis, who in games that are going to matter is going to play like 42 minutes, in playoff games, that is, not in regular season games that matter.
He is, but that position matters for this team though, right? Like Anthony Davis, I think it's a great goal. He wants to play every game. I think we both know that he's going to miss like 20 to 25 games, right? Around that like kind of mark, however he misses them, whether it's someone falls on his leg or whatever. And I think like that's an important position where you need, stability at that position of the backup center. And to your point, Jackson Hayes looks incredible. I think New Orleans kind of maybe placed him out of position a lot of times. He was playing next to Valanciunas. He was playing with Zion. He's playing with, Brandon Ingram, guys who aren't really like spacing for him in a way. And again, like when I watch those two, Christian Wood's obviously more talented than Hayes. Like I think that's clear. He has more in his bag, quote unquote. But Hayes, like he just knows his role. Like he understands, like this is how I get paid. Like what if you watch them, Anthony, go rewatch that game. Watch how both of those two guys screen. Like watch Christian Wood set a screen. Watch Jackson Hayes set a screen. Right? Hayes setting the screen, knowing like this is how I get points. Is that I
Mhm.
get contact on a screen and I roll, and that's how I get the lob. Christian Wood is setting the screen so that he can get the ball back. You know, like it's a
Yeah.
different like way that those two guys set picks. And
I was going to say, I can't really go back and find instances where Christian Wood set screens. he wasn't setting actual screens. Like
no,
and yeah, like he doesn't do a lot. Like obviously very different player, significantly more talented, but he kind of reminds me of Tyler Ennis, where the thing that would
oh
drive me
man,
insane with Ennis, again, very different players, and somebody is gonna, I guarantee, somebody just said, "Oh my God, Anthony just compared Christian Wood to Tyler Ennis." No, what I'm saying is, what drove me insane with Ennis was that was like his last opportunity to like kind of stick in the NBA, and he wasn't very talented, and he still didn't do the little things, right? And eventually, he found his way out of the NBA, and he never did those little things. And that's how his career went, right? Hope he's okay. I think last we heard about him, like he had a terrible injury,
oh shoot,
like a really significant injury. but like with Wood, it's the same kind of thing where, look, man, you've gone from really cool story, undrafted guy who gets a nice deal for himself, goes from situation to situation to situation with winning expectations, keeps falling short of that. Like he is now arrived at that spot, kind of like Dwight a couple of years ago, the first time around, where look, man, you either do the little things, you either do accept this role, or you don't, and you're gonna find out what's behind door number 2 there, and you're not gonna like it. And
yeah,
if he does find out what's behind door number 2, that's not my problem. That's not the Lakers' problem. He's just gone. And I think Hayes would be fine for the little while it would take the Lakers to, I think, find whatever center they bring in or what move they make to, because I do think they're going to need more muscle in their center rotation eventually to deal with Joel Embiid, to deal with Jokic, to deal with Gobert, to deal with, so on and so forth. There's actually a lot more muscle at the center spot than people seem to typically account for, right? Even like you look at Phoenix, they have Nurkic, he's difficult to
yeah.
move. You have you mentioned Valanciunas a second ago in New Orleans. For some reason, all these fuckers happen to be in the West. Can we have one small person in the conference that you can take a night off for? I think if Christian Wood is like at or near the top of your concerns heading into a season, your team is fine. Your team is more than fine.
For sure. And I don't think he's going to be some nuisance or like, mess up the locker room. I just think like there's, to me, like he's either going to play him, be effective, or like he's probably going to want off the team and go to a team where like he can contribute and put up his numbers. And again, like Christian Wood's 28, so I'm not going to like kill the guy for actually wanting to go get another deal, right? He knows that he can't go and be Jackson Hayes. Like he's not going to get paid doing that. So I get that from his perspective as well. I just think we have a lot of guys better than him that does what he wants to do. But Hayes though, Anthony, yeah, he feels like still like, I never really played with clay, but it feels like he's like still like a big like block of clay that you can still.
I was like, wow, you think I have played with Klay Thompson? I have not. That is not something I have done.
No, sorry, yeah, like actual.
But yeah, he's very very malleable.
Yes, exactly. So you can kind of still shift him, and in New Orleans, like Jackson Hayes had no aspirations to like, he knew he was behind Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson. Like he was not about to be at the top of the key getting to cross over people. Like he knows what his role is. And I think here it's the same. He just comes, screens for like a bunch of guards that are really good at also maneuvering around the type of screens that he sets. We're running all these, like our offense has shifted, Anthony. We talked about this in the shows in the playoffs, but like our offense shifted to like an Anthony Davis ball screen offense, and Jackson Hayes just comes and fills that role off the bench as well. Like D'Lo, Austin, Gabe, all dudes are just, that's what they do in the NBA. We don't have any like isolation guards really, right? D'Lo's not killing you in one-on-one. Austin's not really an ISO guard. Gabe's not either. These are all screen guards, and Jackson Hayes just fits perfectly, which is why I watch him and Wood. I'm like, oh man, Hayes just pops off the screen in ways that looks like JaVale, really. That's the last guy, or your son that you called him, Damian Jones, was supposed to be this guy. Your logical son, yes. This was supposed to be Damian Jones.
He was good, but like the second time around, look, That's all it takes. I was with Jen for 10 days and proposed, and she just convinced her to let me stick around for it. That's not actually how it went. But
Oh, I
like,
was like, wow, that's
no,
crazy. Take some
no.
notes here.
um, but no, like with like the thing with Hayes, and I think the reason he really pops is because of a lot of the things that we've talked to this point. You see the runway he has on some of these roles
Huge.
where like, I know you're not a football guy or really anything other than basketball guy, but like in football, they'll have these views that are behind the running back where sometimes like on a big run, when a big run busts open, you look behind the running back or from the vantage point of behind the running back and there's just this gaping
Mm,
chasm that this person can just kind of stroll through, right? And
hmm
um and like the what kind of separates great running backs from good or mediocre ones or even bad ones is the ability to make a hole even if there isn't really one, right? And really take advantage of that running hole if it is there. And in this case, though, Hayes never has to worry about creating it for himself. Like he never has to worry about, all
Right.
right, I'm gonna be jumping from an awkward angle here because I have a forearm in my back or in my side because nobody cares about the player in the opposite corner down there or whatever. Because I don't think he and Vanderbilt are going to be playing very often together. That doesn't really make much sense.
Mm,
And outside, like if it isn't Vanderbilt out there, there really aren't any non-floor spacers that you would be thinking of who would really clog the lane for Hayes. And yeah, there are going to be instances where he's going to have like 5 for 5, 6 for 6 type nights. And it's all going to be dunks that are like elbow at the rim kind of dunks that he can do because he's that talented physically. And he's that talented physically with the insane runway that comes with modern spacing. And he, by the way, is at that stage of his career too, where man, New Orleans just gave up on me. And some of it also, I think, has
mm,
to do with his off court stuff that are always worth noting here. But like, for a guy who is at that stage of his career where he's kind of fighting for getting back to being seen as a more than a minimum kind of player,
hmm
this is that kind of opportunity. And I do think he's probably more likely to take advantage of it because he hasn't built up those bad habits in the amount of time that Wood has.
Right. And I just love his like basketball instincts are very much like quick twitch. Like he never like holds the ball and was like, okay, like do I
No,
have
if
a
anything, he's
matchup
like,
here?
I don't want it. like,
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's like
like
hot potato, which another game I don't
yeah,
think I've played, but like hot potato where like you just go and like really quickly go and like give it up to the next guard. And like right when he catches it, if he's like outside the paint at all, it's quickly okay, guard is near me that I can dribble handoff to. Last like it was Gabe, D'Lo, Austin. Again, like that's the shots that these guards look for, which is just a beautiful combination to me with those guys. And I think Hayes can roll and like I think he got a lob from LeBron last night. But yeah, and his vertical like access is huge. Like his vertical, what's the term for it? But like he can like his vertical range, I guess, where like he can
hmm
get to the basketball. You can throw it up kind of anywhere for him, and he can go and grab
catch
it. So
radius.
yeah, catch radius. That's the term I'm looking for. Like his catch radius is humongous. It's not like Anthony Davis level maybe, but like he can kind of catch from anywhere, which is just a nice like vertical threat that we just didn't have at all, other than AD really last season.
Yeah.
And so like I think he's gonna be awesome. I'm not sure Anthony can Wood and Hayes be in the rotation together. I really don't. I'm not sure. So I think you are gonna have to pick one. But right now Hayes looks like the better fit so far for the team. But it's early.
Yeah, I would agree. I think eventually they're going to be forced to make a decision there, and that's where it is going to be interesting to see like how locker room dynamics and coaching relationship dynamics impact that decision because it does look kind of obvious who probably should be getting those minutes and look, we've seen that happen before, right? We have seen players get outsized roles for a
Yeah.
variety of reasons, and it can be frustrating over the course of the season until it gets figured out. But I will give him some credit in that, for the most part, he eventually figured it out, right?
Mhm.
Or the front office kind of helped him figure it out when they shipped out Patrick Beverly and they shipped out um, obviously Russ and any number of the other 6'3" guys that I see in my nightmares every night. But I also want to talk about that fifth starter because
Mm,
I do think this is a bigger decision that they're going to have to make, and it's going to kind of set the reality for their identity moving forward, right? You can adjust over the course of the game to which player comes in for what and who plays what role in the rotation, but the way that you start games, especially with a team with these kinds of expectations, really does matter. And
mhm.
um, for those who maybe haven't watched as much, though, if you're watching this, I would imagine you've watched the games to this point. But the Lakers essentially have three options, right? It's Vanderbilt who brings the perimeter defense that is kind of lacking across the rest of that starting group. You have Rui Hachimura, who is more offensively inclined and is the kind of guy that you throw the ball to with 7 seconds or so on the shot clock
Yeah,
and can go out and get you that bucket. And then Torian Prince is kind of a good in between where he's better, I think, defensively than Rui, but not good as Vanderbilt. And he is better offensively than Vanderbilt, but isn't quite the kind of player, in terms of raw talent that Rui is on that side of the ball. Is there a direction here that you would want to go in above the other two?
yeah. So I've kind of ruled out Rui, honestly. Like I think and we saw it in the first game as well. Even though Austin and LeBron, didn't play, I think like relegating him to like a catch and shoot option. I think you just don't get the value out of him. Like you saw him last night come in and just be a flamethrower, right? Comes in, takes a three, is able to get in the post and take his fade away and just getting in an offensive rhythm where he doesn't have to worry about anything else. He just goes and gets his baskets, and I think that's what that second unit allows him to do. I've leaned towards Vanderbilt here. I just think like if he's not starting, Anthony, where is he playing? Like if
Hmm.
you don't start Jared Vanderbilt, we just talked about we don't want him next to Jackson Hayes. And then like his main role on this team is defensive kind of. He's our perimeter defender. So whoever that guy is, whether it's John Morant, Brandon Ingram, Luka Doncic, like all these guys who kind of are on ball players, like that's the guy you want to throw at him. Like, hey, full court press him. You don't really have an offensive, role or responsibility that you have to worry about. So just go be a defensive monster. Go, like he won games for us last season as an offensive rebounder. Like that comeback in Dallas, it was all Vanderbilt's offensive rebounding, his defense on Luka that like changed that game. And I think it'd
Yeah.
be nice to get an identity. And I've been on the Vanderbilt train, but like I took a ride on the Torian Prince one last night. And I was like, man, this isn't bad either. Like this isn't terrible. I don't know when I've last time been on a train, but like the Torian Prince one wasn't bad. Like it was a nice ride. The seats were comfortable. Like having that much spacing around where like it felt extremely modern. Like they were helping one pass away, and LeBron's like, oh, this is way too easy. Like he just threw a nice little pass over to Torian, and that's what he does. He can attack off the dribble in terms of attacking closeouts. He's gonna shoot 40% from three, as he's already promised Laker
Promise.
fans promised us, and he's just an NBA pro, which is nice just to have guys who just are absolutely just even league average NBA players. And Torian might lean a little bit over, but that's where I'm at. I would still lean Vando because I just don't know where you play him if he's not there, and I'd like a little continuity from last year. And I think we have enough shooting and shot creation to where he can kind of be the screener, especially if AD is going to shoot more jump shots this season, even if it's not 6 threes a game. But I lean Vanderbilt, but I wouldn't be mad at Torian either. I think those are awesome options to have for Darvin to choose from.
Yeah, the thing with Vanderbilt is that like the reason that you play him is to put him on the other team's best perimeter player, or probably just generally best player, right? Because
Sure.
like you don't really want either AD or LeBron guarding the other team's best player. You
Mm-hmm.
certainly don't want D'Angelo Russell on the other team's best player. And if it's Torian Prince, like maybe you can play him, put him on like the Bookers of the world, and try to kind of survive until Vanderbilt comes in and and is just kind of like that like live wire that you throw out there to really kind of muck up the game if you need to. It's like maybe I could kind of get it with Prince in that regard. Um, that said, I so essentially it's the decision between, do I care more about defensive rhythm or offensive rhythm to start the game, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I I kind of don't necessarily love the idea of telling Prince or Rui, "Hey, we need a pickup on offense. Can you like go out there and like hit three threes, please?" Because remember, we tried doing that with Malik Beasley, and it was just always it's hard
Right.
to ask that of a player who like isn't hardwired to do that already. And I kind of think with Prince, if you let him start alongside LeBron and AD and Russell and Reeves, that's a really difficult group to guard. And like at the very beginning of all of these games, I feel like more often than not, the offense is going to be clicking right from the get go. And yeah,
Yeah.
the other team's offense will be going better than if you had Vanderbilt out there. But I do like the idea of Vanderbilt being like your cayenne pepper that you just throw in there and really spice things up. And hey, Booker hit, four of his first five looks here, and he looks to really have it going. Vanderbilt, go out there and play like a freaking madman. Don't worry about foul trouble because at the end of the day, like you have two other guys at your position who can step in and be like relatively okay, and really kind of screw things up. So the more I talk about it, the more I kind of, and again, like I like the idea of forming a strength or forming your identity off of your strength. And this team's strength is on the offensive side of the ball. This team is going to be
Sure.
really difficult to guard, and I like the idea of, yeah, we're just going to lean into the offense with like some consideration for the defense here. Prince isn't terrible defensively, and I think he'll compete well enough considering all he has to do on the other side of the court is stand in the corner and come off the occasional screen. Um,
Sure.
I think the more I think about it, I think I'm leaning Prince.
Yeah, that's fair too. I think Prince has just been. I mean, Prince has been. He's similar to Jackson Hayes to me, where he's better. I think he's a better just overall player, but he's just been in the same role for like 6 years or 7 years, however long he's been
Yeah.
in the league. So like he's kind of perfected that role. There's no like he's not going to be Patrick Beverly or Dennis Schroeder be like, oh, let me run some pick and rolls. Like that's just not like Torian's not going to call for the ball ever. He's going to stand in the corner. He's going to run baseline to baseline if you want him to, and attack closeouts and get to the basket and just like be able to continue any advantage that a star has created. But I like, again, I would still lead Vando just because I just think it complicates like where you play him after that. I just like starting the game off with some defensive identity. And I think like that's a lot of defensive responsibility for AD to carry, I think. And
Mhm.
Torian, I think, is fine. I just think like you see his like physical limitations as well. I think like on
Yeah.
you saw it in the first game as well. I think Jonathan Kaminga just went through his chest. And I think that's just places where he has trouble. But I think that team would score a ton of points for sure. I don't know how you would guard that if Prince, D'Lo and Austin are on. Like that's an offensive machine. I just like I would like Vando out there because I think we have enough shooting to where like you can not guard Vando, but at least like I think there's ways to at least leverage that into like handoffs to D'Lo and Austin, who are going to be way more volume 3-point shooters, I think, than they even were last year. But I like Prince as well. I wouldn't be mad at that. He's a fantastic off-ball player, and for the role he's going to be in, it's very specialized to what he's perfected for the last 5-6 years.
I also like the idea of Vando and Rui playing together on second units. Like
I've seen
I,
you try to go for
I'm
this.
I'm gonna try. I'm at some point this is going to be spoken into existence, but we never saw them together last year, and I think part of that is like there was so much going on that like worrying about another combination was not really in the cards for Ham with everything that they were trying to implement, like heading into the postseason. But this year, though, I would like to see Vanderbilt kind of handle the perimeter and let Rui just kind of beat the crap out of somebody else on the interior. And if you have Jackson Hayes, like the spacing there can be kind of clunky. Maybe there, if you have Vanderbilt, you can get away with Wood, defensively and those limitations. I have been kind of surprised, and I shouldn't be surprised at this because his height is literally listed, but Vincent looks tiny out there. Like he looks really, really small. Um, and like I think we saw it on a couple occasions, even last night, where there was an opportunity there for somebody to just kind of rise up, and they didn't even like see him. He was down somewhere around their belly button when they finally elevated. And I kind of like the idea of having Vanderbilt Vanderbilt and why am I blanking on his? I just said
And Rui.
Vincent. Yeah, no, Vincent. I like the
Oh,
idea of Vanderbilt and Vincent out there together because like they both are going to get after it defensively. It's just that Vanderbilt isn't as limited physically, in terms
mhm.
of raw length as Vincent is, and even if the spacing is kind of clunky, and I would prefer not to see full 5-man bench lineups as much as we did last
Yeah.
year. But in the case that you are going to see it, a group of Vincent, Christie, Vando, Rui, Hayes / Wood, and you just like defend your ass off and get out on the break. And did you ever see the movie 300? You probably didn't.
I've heard of it. The guy with like those guys running or something like with the sword or something like that, screaming.
Yeah, so there's a scene in there where he's like, because essentially Spartans were like these, in extreme militant, super focused and
Mhm.
disciplined. That they were these soldiers that like followed every order to the letter of the law and
Okay.
survived as long as they were able to in that situation because they were that kind of discipline. And then there was this other army that comes in. I think they were Athenian. And the narrator was like, the Athenians, they are so much fun to watch because they just completely fuck everything up in the most terrible and awesome of ways. And I kind of feel like that identity with that group of, all right, the first 5 that you saw out there were technicians, right? They were
Mhm.
just engineers. They were just absolute snipers all over the court, executed your asses off. And then when we go to the second unit, it's a complete change in pace, and these guys are freaking nutcases. These guys over here are going to come in and absolutely fuck up the game in the most beautiful and terrible of ways. And I kind of like that identity for that second unit. That's generally the identity I like from most second units, and
Yeah.
especially here with that group being so young, long, athletic, kind of spunky. I
Yeah.
that's kind of the more again that I kind of talk this out. That's what I would prefer to see on opening night.
You basically have like your mature group, right? Like very solid, just gonna run every set, gonna dissect you, and then off the bench we're just running, we're free flowing, and I think Gabe
Yeah,
fits into that, right? Gabe is a very much he's gonna be an electric player where like some nights he has 30 and some nights he has four
we have a
points. Like I think
comment here.
that's
Zangerstein, the Persians were the bad guys. They are not the person that like the Athenians helped. That's what I was talking about. But anyway, sorry.
yeah, I wouldn't be able to help there at all, but I would be
Like
zero use
300,
in
isn't
that
that a bowling
conversation.
thing? Like, was that a bowling movie?
Oh man, yeah, that's on my list, I guess.
Oh yeah,
Whenever,
totally.
whatever, you know.
Movie came out like 20 years ago, I think. I think literally came out 20 years ago.
Okay,
Somehow
yeah,
it's on your list.
there's a few on there that I just haven't got to yet. But yeah, like having a mature lineup and then like just a rugged transition, run you off the floor, which I think Hayes fits into, Gabe fits into, and I can't believe we went this long, Anthony, without talking about Max Christie. I am so excited to watch him kind of develop and become just like this rotation guy. He's become a pull-up three-point jump shooter in one season. Like I have no in like one summer. I'm not sure how he added that, but he comes off screens and he looks mature. And I love him with that second unit. I think Cam Reddish is gonna have a hard time, beating him out for minutes. And like he's another guy, Anthony. Like we talk about continuity, and like I was listening back to our, when the season ended podcast just to kind of reminisce about that time, and I was like, and we were like, yeah, we want continuity in the summer. And you don't really think of Max Christie in that. But like you watch Cam Reddish play and then you watch Max Christie play. Like Max is like, he's been in this system. I mean, he only knows Darin Ham as a coach. So he doesn't really have any other experience, but like he's been in the system for a year and you watch him come in. He's like, oh, this is where I get my shots from. Like I come off this screen. This is where my pull up is coming. This is where my corner three is coming from. These are my defensive responsibilities that they've been, hammering into me since, last season during the whole playoffs. So I'm excited. I think Max is going to be a big part of that second unit too, where I think he's our most athletic guard. Like if you look at our roster, Max is like our most athletic
Oh, for
guard,
sure. Yeah.
right? And like he's almost like a power guard on this team to where like he needs to be your enforcer in terms of a defensive guard. And so like I want to see him play in that unit. But yeah, that's a fun unit where they can run up and down. I think that's going to be a LeBron led kind of team where like Gabe is the
Yeah.
off ball secondary kind of creator guy. But LeBron's been off ball a lot. Last night there wasn't a lot of pick and rolls for LeBron. It was a lot of D'Lo, Austin, and Gabe, and LeBron kind of just fitting in, which I expect him to get more possessions. But I like that. I like that. Get a running second unit, kind of just keep the lead or extend it with like offensive production. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, I saw somebody else make the point that like the second unit is probably gonna have to feature a little bit more LeBron because like I do still like Vincent as the pickup. I do think there is going to be value there. I am kind of kicking myself for ever wondering who was going to start between him and D'Angelo Russell. Like some of those takes
Oh
have
no.
aged like milk in the middle of the summer in Vegas. But I you know I think he would really benefit from being a secondary creator, less so than a primary in a group. And
Sure.
if he's coming off of your bench, I kind of like the idea of like LeBron kind of being one of your first subs out, and then coming back in with that second group there, and helping with some of that creation until Reeves gets his full breather, and you have that kind of weird middle of the game where you have the jumble of first and second units together. Again, I know Ham has really kind of liked the hockey sub kind of thing and play a full second unit and stuff. And I think some of that had to do with throwing shit at the wall and hoping something sticks, or throwing mud on
Yeah.
the wall and hoping something sticks. I don't think you want shit sticking to your wall. But I think this time though, this is a roster that can be a lot more directed, a lot more disciplined. These rotations can make a lot more sense. And look, this is where it's going to be really interesting with Ham, because I think last year he kind of benefited from lowered expectations because of the situation that he was coaching in. This year, though, those expectations are going to be right there right from the get-go. And if he makes the same mistake for like a solid week, or makes a decision that kind of rattles the cages a little bit and annoys the always calm Lakers Twitter atmosphere, that would be kind of interesting to see how that plays out. But I do kind of think here, though, with a full camp, with an identity that, again, LeBron and AD are bought into, and LeBron and AD trust him. And when that trust is kind of fed from the top down, I think it makes it a lot easier to make some of those tougher decisions if it does come time to tell Christian Wood, hey, man, until you decide to do some of these small things, you're going to have to sit, and it makes it a little easier to tell Rui, hey, we know you just got paid, but you probably benefit from coming off of the bench here. Or Vanderbilt, I know that you just got your extension, but Prince might make some more sense here. Whatever the decision might be that, is going to annoy somebody, because this is a talented enough roster where all of these decisions are going to mean somebody is sacrificing. And I think, how Ham handles that, the decisions that he makes, and if something isn't necessarily working, how quickly he moves off of it, that's all going to be fascinating to watch. What do you think of Ham heading into this second season? What are your expectations for him?
Well, to me, just like the playoffs do for players, I feel like the playoffs do for coaches as well, in terms of it really accelerates your learning process. Like, I feel like going through a playoffs, like multiple playoff series, which is rare, right? For a first time head coach, like with that, to start so poorly as he did, had to experiment playing, Russell Westbrook at center sometimes just to survive games, and, and do all these extreme tactics to try to survive games. Like, I think the playoffs really showed like he can be very tactical. He can also be personable. Like, you see how he was able to reach Lonnie Walker and get him to come in, and obviously you give Lonnie the credit for the performance, but at least Darvin Ham helping and like having him stay ready. But to me, that showed me a lot. We're like, oh, this guy can, like, his adjustments to me in the Warrior series, putting Vando on Draymond versus putting Vando on Steph, putting Austin on Steph, putting AD on Wiggins, like stuff that's like, you have to actually outcoach the other team and like Steve Kerr is the championship coach. So to me, that was impressive. And the stuff he did against Memphis as well, learning like when to change the starters. And then Denver, those games were close, as tough as that is to stay during a sweep, but like the adjustments to put Rui on Jokic and all the kind of stuff that he did, I feel like that I think that showed that he's a very he can be very tactical, and he has the personality to be able to go to a Christian Wood. Like that should be the other side of this, right? Like his relationship with Christian Wood, like it can be more minutes, but it also can be like, hey, look, I know you from your rookie year, you're not living up to your potential. And also, like you just brought up all those extensions, I think that also makes it easier to be like, hey, like you got paid, so you're not playing for a contract. Like we're just doing what we need for the team. Like you're not gonna play tonight, or this matchup isn't good for you. So I'm high on Darvin. I think he showed last year that he can really adjust when it matters, and doesn't kind of lose his cool or would kind of do things that are out of the ordinary when when it asks for. So I'm excited for him, and going into year 2, have a full training camp, have a roster that makes sense, a team that I think he had some part of building, like at least had some conversations. Like to me, Vogel had 0 conversations on the Nurkic for Aiden trade. Like that tells me Frank Vogel was not in the room during those deals. So I think Darvin at least has some, input in the decisions that are made, which I think is good. I think a GM and coach need to be aligned, or else you get the 2021 Frank Vogel year, or a lot of other situations. So I think I'm excited for him.
Yeah, I'm mostly optimistic. I just also remember, like, I think Walton was in kind of a similar spot where the situation around him wasn't great, and he didn't necessarily optimize it either. And then like the situation improved, and you just kind of looked at it and like, ooh, he still sucks. Like remember the first LeBron year? I think he was coaching the first LeBron year, right?
He was,
yeah. And like the situation got better, and then you're like, oof. And even Magic was like, hey man, we need to fire this guy. Like this isn't working. I think Ham is a significantly better coach than Walton. And for the most part, I'm pretty confident that we won't run into that same kind of situation. I just think that because of the mess that last season was, expectations with him were so low that him doing anything that helped the situation would, made us feel a little bit better about it. But I also recall last season, even given the situations that weren't ideal, it wasn't like he was necessarily helping much either, playing Austin Reeves at center, right? So, it's going to be interesting to see what he does here in a season with expectations. Again, I'm mostly optimistic about what he does. I think he is a good coach. And most importantly, and this is what separates him from Frank Vogel, he has LeBron's confidence. He has AD's confidence. He has the full backing of the front office, because if they mess that hiring up, that's 2 coaches that they either screwed up in hiring, or screwed up the process leading up to the hiring, or screwed up their tenure later with how they did with Vogel and the personnel that they gave him. So I think everything kind of here, I always kind of look for, like, if I'm trying to predict outcomes, everybody knows this, a big process guy, but I also really look at the vested interests of those who are here. And if all of those interests align for an intended outcome, typically that outcome, if everybody is talented enough to make it happen, is going to happen. But if you have some of these interests not necessarily aligning and all of that, which, again, to be absolutely clear, they are a lot more aligned this year than they were the past couple of years. I do think that even if Ham isn't like new Eric Spoelstra or whatever, I do think that there's a good chance that this winds up working out pretty well for him as well. But last thing before we get you out of here, and before we let you plug everything that you're working on, D'Angelo Russell is somebody who I find myself like pleasantly surprised about. And you mentioned that he was in command and all of that stuff, and I completely agree. do you see a situation here where he plays well enough that he winds up sticking on this roster beyond the deadline?
Absolutely, and I hope that's the case. Like, I feel like if you're trading D'Lo, something went wrong. Like, maybe you find the perfect partner, but and I said this before that for some reason no one can mention D'Angelo Russell without like it's like his last name isn't Russell. It's a tradable contract. Like, you're like D'Angelo Russell, it's a movable contract. Like that's all anyone says.
On
Like
the
it's
back of his jersey, it says
yeah,
movable contract. Yeah.
it's very annoying to hear that as like the only analysis that people give. But no, he looks like, and we speak about players in their prime, and that's like a joke, right? Like prime, like there's people like prime Paolo. It's like he's in year 2. How is it prime Paolo? But like but like you get like that's the point of like signing all these guys like right before they're 30, their 27, 28-year-old season. That's usually when guys are like really find their way in the league. And I think D'Lo is another guy who probably really appreciates continuity, and he spoke about that right when the trade happened, and you could like tell. I remember you brought up Luke Walton, so it made me like remember his like first preseason game after the Byron Scott era. So like we fired Byron Scott, and then we got Luke in, and like remember the story was D'Lo was jumping around the room when we hired Luke. But like which I think a lot of Laker fans did when when they
I didn't even care who they hired. I was just so happy that they fired Byron. Like they could have brought in it. Raj, you and I could have coached, and I'd have been like, I'm completely outmatched, but I'm not that guy. I'm actually talking to my players. I am a better coach than Byron Scott.
Oh man, Laker legend Byron Scott. I'll just put that out there. But yeah. So like
Laker legend Byron Scott and Laker legend Magic Johnson, both things with their post playing careers went super duper well.
Oh man, but yeah, I remember like his first few preseason games, he was going nuts, and it was like, oh man, look at D'Lo. And I remember at the time, like he was like, yeah, I just feel comfortable. I'm in a spot that like obviously they
My coach
appreciate.
doesn't actively hate me.
And then he got traded, the following summer
God.
because for Timofey Mozgov, which we don't speak about. But like I think like D'Lo's a guy when you put him in a place for a while.
No, he didn't get traded for Timothy Mozgov. Oh, to get rid of the contract, right? No.
Yes, it's Oh no.
Yeah.
Sorry, he was traded for Brook Lopez.
Yeah.
Right? Correct.
Yeah.
But it was a sign and it was a dump, I believe, to get whatever it was. It was a salary dump. It was an awful trade in my opinion. But like in any case, like if you put him in a situation he in Brooklyn as well when he made the All-Star game, I think like that's another place he probably felt comfortable. But like he's gonna have to show it. Obviously, Laker fans are gonna wait till the playoffs, and that stench off the Denver series is tough to get off. But he looks in control, man. And him and Austin look like not only are they good on the floor, but look like they have a great relationship off the court, which is cool to watch. Like the backcourt be able to kind of blossom together, and two guards who are, kind of do similar things, are threats in similar ways, who look like they really play off each other well. So I think D'Lo's gonna have a awesome season. I think like he looks comfortable, and Darin Ham coming out and saying he's our point guard, and killing any of people's ideas of Gabe Vincent starting, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see D'Lo fit in a modern system. He's a modern guard, and he fits in our modern system. So no, I hope he's not traded. Movable contract as it is. I hope he's not moved.
Yeah, I mostly agree with you that at the end of the day, like it would be really cool to see, like Alexis is mentioning this here, right? It would be cool to see one of the baby Lakers like win a championship here. Though Kuzma was a baby Laker. No, he wasn't in that, right? The four Lakers in that like sweater picture were Clarkson, D'Lo,
B.I.,
Randall,
and
and Ingram. Yeah. So it would be pretty dope to see one of those guys with a championship here, and look, like as people who have listened to this long enough, no, I mourned that D'Angelo Russell trade for like a solid year. Like it was not something that I ever really got over, because I really thought that he and Lonzo Ball could fit really well together in the backcourt, especially given the player that Lonzo grew up to be. It wouldn't have happened because one or both of those guys would have been in the AD trade, but like that pairing, and I think we are kind of seeing kind of a version of it, at least offensively. Lonzo's obviously a significantly better defender than either Russell or Reeves combined could ever be, but I do think though both guys' ability, and like Lonzo's, I thought greatest kind of attribute offensively was his ability to take a quick snapshot while the ball was in the air, being rotated over to him. So he made those super quick decisions. And
Yeah.
you look at the way that Reeves and D'Lo operate together out there, and it's the same kind of thing where if the ball is going from one of those guys to the other, they are hitting the ground running with whatever the next decision has to be, and it makes that lineup, especially if Prince is out there together or with them, that lineup is really effing difficult to defend. So I'm again, maybe it's confirmation bias because I never gave up on my large adult son, D'Angelo Russell. But I guess now I have like a large adult grandson in the fact that he has a kid, which doesn't make me feel ancient at all. But I like what I see from him. And I do kind of think, and I've said this a couple times here on the pod, but when he was signed, and this is where a lot of what you were talking about came from, where he signed and the sentiment, less so from the Lakers because they didn't want this necessarily out there as clearly, but certainly around the league was, oh yeah, they're signing him because they have to sign him, and eventually they'll move him. Now, though, having seen this work, and I think also having seen the Lakers see D'Angelo Russell work. Because there were some questions there when he arrived back in LA. But I think here for this time around, now having a full camp and now maturing to the point where he recognizes what it's going to take so that he doesn't go through another summer like this where the market really wasn't there for him, even though there was money to spend on him. I think he understands that this is a pretty unique opportunity, and it's on him to make the best of it. But I have taken up.
Well,
yeah.
I'll just say last thing on D'Lo. I think like we have like short memories sometimes, like over the summer, because I don't watch anything else. I went back and rewatched all the playoff games, and there's like so many moments where like D'Lo makes the big play that like you forget just because the Denver series, but like the Minnesota playing game where he goes on like an 8-0 run himself, right? We lose that playing game, Anthony. Maybe we don't make the playoffs, and then maybe like we're not in game one against the Warriors where they go on this massive run, tie the game, no one can score, and he does like a fadeaway over Andrew Wiggins to ice that one. I believe game 4 against Memphis where it's tight and like he hits a big 3. And then like there's so many shots where like he helps kills the other team's momentum when they're about to take the game over. And I think that stuff like we just lose in sight because the box score is very easily to go like, oh, he went 4 for 15, but like those 4 sometimes are massive. And like I think that's the stuff that I wish like D'Lo, and like his defense is never going to be great. Like, and he even he's very public about that, which is strange to me. But like,
I'm sorry, everybody, I'm going to suck on that end forever.
But I respect that sometimes. He's not like,
look,
yeah,
even Damian Lillard was like, I think I can be serviceable. Damian's making
$45 million.
He's making the GDP of some small countries out there. He's like, I might be able to play some defense, maybe.
Yeah, I love D'Lo. I was like, yeah, they're like, I was not working on defensive slides this summer. Don't even think about it. I was not working on defensive slides or helping rotations.
I'm not getting any quicker at this stage in my career, and I'm like, dude, you're like 27. What are you talking about? It's when everybody is like entering their absolute athletic peak, and he's like, yeah, it is what it is. Over under half a dunk this year for D'Angelo Russell. What do you think?
Oh, man. Yeah, he's probably gonna get like a few lay-ins. Those dunks where like you kind of just put your head on the rim, like the
warm-up ones, right? Where like in high school, because you weren't allowed to touch the rim, so you just like drop the ball into the basket. Those kinds of dunks. Right, D'Angelo Russell, up high and down hard. All right, man. This has been a blast as always. I always appreciate you making some time, like we said, off camera and stuff. It was a blast to have you on post-game stuff throughout the playoffs, and we're going to be doing some stuff like that, I think, over the course of the season as well. Where else can we find you?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously on Twitter, I'll be rewatching all the games back in my heaven mode of like up at 1 a.m. be able to rewatch games and all that on Twitter. And then we have the Lakers detailed pod I do with my friend Vinay. We'll have some stuff on YouTube, and then All Access Lakers is back doing live games as well. So we should be back maybe tomorrow, but for sure on Friday we'll be doing live stuff. And yeah, excited to be back into the season. Football is over, Anthony, I believe. Sorry about your baseball team, which I think is about
Baseball
to
is
lose.
over. Football is like in week 5. There's
No,
still a ways
it's
to go.
over. It's over. It was last week was the last week. I don't want
The
to.
Super Bowl was last week. I missed it.
Yeah, I don't want to see it anymore. Where NBA has started.
My Vikings, their best receiver, their best player, Justin Jefferson, just got put on the IR. So they're finally, I hope, gonna start like trading off pieces and tank for a really good quarterback. And I'll break it down. I'll break down a bunch of Caleb Williams tape with you. What do you think?
I have no idea who that is. I you could have said any name there. I'd be like, all right, yeah.
I'm really looking forward to future Viking Hingle McCringleberry. He's gonna be really, really good.
Sounds right to me.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you missed any of this, make sure you subscribed on YouTube. We did cross that 1,000 subscriber threshold before the season kicked off. That was kind of my unofficial goal for this channel. I appreciate that support there. If you have any questions, leave them in the form of a 5-star review on iTunes, and I will get to those as well. And subscribe to the podcast feed, where, like, if you miss any of this, I'm going to break it up into a few episodes for tomorrow, and you can check out all of them wherever you find your pod. So we will talk to you then, and until then, Raj, go watch 300. You can do it. It's right there.
No more
streaming
time,
anywhere.
My summer's over. That's it.
Nobody says